From the fantasy armchair, it is the Fantasy Tyrant.
Hey there, fellow fantasy football freaks. I'm recording this from inside the closet. Now, I ain't gay. I'm literally inside my closet, recording audio because the rest of my house is under construction right now. My daughter's freaking out. There's plastic everywhere. People coming in and out constantly. It's like Elliot's house at the end of E.T. So because my studio is literally under construction, you don't get to see my handsome mug this week. But next week, I'll be back in the traveling fantasy armchair, and where I'll be, well, you'll have to tune in next week to find out. But anyway, real quick though, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so you don't miss an episode. But now, without further ado, you know what that music means. It's time for my top 10 waiver wire targets for week 6. Number 10, Rachaad White. He was on the list last week, but only increased 7% in ownership. I guess some of you people weren't happy about this past week's performance. I'm sorry, but if you picked up White thinking he'd be something right away, or, God forbid, started the guy this past week, maybe it's time for you to find another hobby, like maybe Pokemon Go or some shit. Like I said last week, this is a speculative ad, but would be a potential league winner if Uncle Lenny gets hurt. And White could continue to earn more work going forward. Bucks OC Byron Leftwich has called for more attention for the rookie standout running back, so don't be surprised if this eventually becomes a committee. And as the season goes on, old man Brady may be turning to the running game a lot more like he did last season, so both running backs could be fantasy viable in the long run. But look at the lottery ticket that paid off for Kenneth Walker owners. Yeah, I'll be talking about him a little later. Same thing here. Leonard Fournette isn't made of glass like Rashad Penny, but he does get hurt from time to time. Handcuff with potential breakout here, so go get him. Number 9, Cade Otton. I was big on this kid in the offseason, as I knew he'd be the new tight end to own in Tampa with the departure of Gronk. But Cade Otton is in the upper echelon of the tight ends of the future. 2022 was a deep draft class at the tight end position, but Otton was certainly one of the standouts. With Cameron Braid injured, Otton caught 6 balls on 7 targets for 43 yards. Not a breakout game, but I feel we'll see that soon enough. The Bucks receiving corps has been more battered than Cardi B's wet-ass pussy. And we all know how much Tom Terrific loves to throw to his tight end. Otton may have earned himself a steady role in the Bucks offense, and that role could easily grow. He's got the size, quickness, and catching ability to score fantasy points, and he's a damn good edge rush blocker, so he could potentially be in on a lot of plays going forward. It won't be long before the Bucks realize that Otton is a better option than Brate. Pick him up now before they figure it out once he goes off. Number 8, Hayden Hurst. The second of 3 tight ends on this list, and I only have him ahead of Otton because he's not competing for a lead tight end spot on his team. Hurst is the guy, and with Higgins dealing with a nagging ankle issue and Jamar Chase being lost in double coverage most of the time, Hurst has picked up a lot of work where we thought Tyler Boyd might have. This past week, he was out-targeted 7-4 over Boyd, second on the team only to Jamar Chase. He's the tight end 11 on the season and a tight end 4 over the past 2 weeks. And with the tight end position so top-heavy and solid tight ends so hard to come by, not to mention the injuries to some of them, having a healthy tight end with a consistent 10 or so points a game is worth picking up if you're hurting at the position, and most of you are. So go get Hayden Hurst. Number 7, Eno Benjamin. If you've watched my show over the past couple seasons, you know I love this kid. He's quick, elusive, can break tackles, and can be productive when given the opportunity. And this past week, with James Conner going down with a rib injury and Darrell Williams taken out with a knee injury, Benjamin stepped up and put together a decent showing against the stout Philly defense. If Conner and Williams are still out, Eno gets the Rainy City bitch pigeons this week, who are giving up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing running backs over the first 5 weeks of the season. I'd have Eno further up the list if I knew he was going to get more opportunities to showcase his skills, but Conner will likely be back next week, if not this week, so Eno's value is up in the air. Worth owning in most leagues as a possible start this week and as a handcuff for Conner owners, or a nice stash if you got the room. Number 6, Rondale Moore. This one is hard to pin down. By the end of the season, it could be clear that Moore should have been closer to the top of this list, or off the list entirely. That's why I have him this low. Since last season, there have been weeks where Rondale Moore looks like the next big breakout star wide receiver, But there's also weeks where it seems like his talents are better utilized selling Red Hots and peanuts in the stands. His production's seen more ups and downs than cryptocurrency, or a stripper's panties. You pick your favorite analogy. Anyway, as soon as he returned, as we predicted, he got all the attention Greg Dortch was getting and put together a solid wide receiver 2 day this past week. Moore certainly has the speed and catching ability to be a viable every week starter in fantasy, but his usage has been the issue in the past. However, with the Cards cutting Andy Isabella earlier this week, it seems they're confident that Moore is the clear wide receiver 3 on this team, which brings me to the caveat. Nuke Hopkins comes back after this week and will severely cut into Moore's potential for production. Still, the Cards run enough 3 wide sets to accommodate Moore and get him a decent enough snap share to be a matchup-based flex option most weeks. And if either Hollywood Brown or Nuke Hopkins go down with injury, Moore's breakout potential could be realized. The potential gets him on the list, but being buried as the 3rd or 4th target on the team, if you count Zach Ertz, keeps him lower on the list. For now, if you got the room, get ahead of the curve and snag Rondale Moore off the waivers this week. Number 5, Geno Smith. I don't like putting QBs on this list because generally, if you don't have a stud, it's best to stream him. But Geno Smith is no joke and has earned a spot on this list. Never thought I'd say that on this show. Long gone are the days of Geno getting clocked by his Jets teammate over a supposed $600 loan. We all had a laugh, and it seemed his career was all but over. Then he got signed by the Seahawks, and this season, he only had to be better than Drew Lock in order to get a starting job, which is like saying you had to beat a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. All jokes aside, Geno's been one of the big surprises this season, scoring at least 17 fantasy points in all but one game, and averaging 20 or so fantasy points for the season. He currently sits at the QB7 through the first 5 weeks, but is still only owned in 36% of leagues. That number needs to come way up, as Geno's a viable starter at QB every week, a borderline QB1. The second half of the season looks even juicier than the first half in terms of potential QB production for Geno, and Seattle sucks Seacock on defense, so he'll likely have to throw a lot this season. This all adds up to gold for fantasy managers, so pick up Geno if your current QB is struggling or hurt. Come on, do it. Number 4, Alec Pierce. The training camp buzz on this kid was true to roof, and we're starting to see why, as that connection with Matt Ryan is making its way into the regular season. Pierce is the reason why Michael Pittman hasn't exploded this season since week 1. Okay, well, that and the fact that Matty Ice has been, well, ice cold. I've had Pierce as a wait and see, keep an eye on him candidate in the honorable mentions for several weeks now, but this week he put up an 8 catch on 9 target for 81-yard stat line, proving that he's more than just a long bomb threat and that he's more of a possession receiver than anyone gave him credit for. I was impressed, and you know what happens when you impress me, Alec Pierce? Huh? No more honorable mentions for you, my friend, cause
You just made the list!
Thanks, Jericho. Seriously though, this may be the last time we see Pierce on this list, as I certainly see him coming off the waiver wire in most leagues this week. It's likely now or never to get Pierce, so get him now. Number 3, Jacoby Myers. Alright, so what the fuck, Tyrant gang? Myers got hurt, and many of you dropped him. Not just put him in IR, but straight kicked his ass to the curb, like he was some bitch girlfriend you caught fucking the Amazon guy. Why? Year after year, this dude is one of the most underrated wide receivers in fantasy football. And this season, in the games he started, he's averaged over 17 fantasy points per game. That's some solid-ass wide receiver 2 production, at least. And yet, he's still available in over 50% of leagues. Not only should he be owned in all leagues, he should be starting in most of them. Coming back from injury, he had a hell of an outing in week 5, catching 7 balls on 8 targets for 111 yards and a tutty, scoring over 24 fantasy points in the process. So yeah, quit fucking around and go pick up Myers. It doesn't matter who's throwing to him, he's the top target on the Pats offense, and my top wide receiver to pick up this week and start most weeks in your flex rest of season. Snatch his ass up. Number 2, Taysom Hill. Fine, okay, he's a thing. I apologize to anyone who I told otherwise. So here we go again. The debate will rage as fantasy managers pick up this cheat code to plug into the tight end spot. Shades of 2020 linger, and that naturally has everyone in a tizzy. No, I'm not talking about the year we all want to forget ever happened in the real world, but rather what happened in the fantasy football world. The Taysom Hill tight end conundrum. I mean, for real, What the fuck should he be considered? No one knows. This is what Tebow would have become if he swallowed his pride and realized he wasn't going to cut it as a peer QB in the league. But since the Swiss Army knife isn't an official position in the NFL, Hill's been relegated to a QB/tight end on most fantasy platforms, and that makes him particularly valuable in the otherwise difficult to fill tight end spot. So if you pick him up, you can get hybrid QB running back points in your tight end slot. Cha-ching! Not sure why quarterback plus running back equals tight end in this case, as Hill only caught one pass on 2 targets all season, but I ain't arguing. As a gadget guy, Taysom Hill is plenty valuable and proved that this past week, scoring over 34 fantasy points, putting up 112 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's 3 touchdowns on 9 carries, adding in 22 passing yards and another touchdown as well through the air. That's 4 total touchdowns for you math whizzes out there. He's an elite option at quote-unquote tight end and needs to be owned in every league. And then when his tight end designation gets taken away, we can watch the whole fantasy world shit its collective undies once again. Get in on this shit and get Taysom Hill this week. And that leaves us with my number 1 waiver wire pickup of the week, Kenneth Walker.
No shit, Sherlock.
Another guy who I've talked about stashing in the honorable mentions, and this is why. If you don't got the number 1 waiver priority, you ain't getting him. Penny's gone for the season, and now the Seahawks backfield is all Walkers. Coach Pete Carroll said earlier in the season that he was ready to roll with Walker as the top running back in the offense if need be, and here we are. One of the top-rated running backs coming into the 2022 draft. Most scouts and analysts, such as myself, had him rated as the number 2 running back in the draft, which was vindicated when he was drafted in round 2 by the Seahawks as the 2nd running back taken overall in the draft behind the Jets' Breece Hall. Watch my top 10 rookie running backs to draft video, floating somewhere up there, to see more about his pre-draft stats and scouting info. But if you caught a glimpse of what he did this past Sunday, you know all you need to know to pick him up as the top ad this week, now that he's the top dog in the backfield for the bitch pigeons. That 69 yard touchdown run capped off the day, but the eye test tells you he's the man and will be a top running back in this league sooner than later. The term potential league winner gets tossed around more than the football does in the movie The Room.
Oh, hi, Mark.
But in this case, it's fitting. Yeah, blow all your fab if you need a running back, because this is huge. Spend the top waiver priority if you need him, and if you don't need him, do it anyway and trade him for the guys you do need. There's always a clear waiver wire pickup of the year every year, and this season, this is probably the guy right here. Don't fuck around. If you got any chance of getting Walker, do it and save your season. The Seahawks offense isn't as bad as we thought it would be, and in fact, it may be better than last season. And you saw what Penny did last season. Walker isn't made of glass and is a much better running back than Penny. Penny's just a penny, but Ken Walker is straight money. And we're talking Benjamins, baby. So go get Kenneth Walker, win your league, and get paid. So there's your top 10, but I got some honorable mentions here for you. The one guy over 50% I want to mention here that I'd otherwise have on this list is George Pickens. He's number 4 on this list if he's available in your league. He's only 55% of leagues though, so chances are he's gone. But take a look just in case. And of course, if there's anyone I don't mention that you want to ask about, go ahead and leave me a question in the comments, and I'll answer it for you. Tevin Coleman is an interesting prospect, and if you have Jeff Wilson, you might want to grab Coleman just in case. If Wilson were to get hurt, and as the Niners running back that's always on the table, Coleman would be a top ad on the list. Stash him if you can. Same can be said about Josh Kelly as a handcuff for Austin Eckler. In fact, if you're an Eckler owner, you should make room for Kelly and get him on your squad, or you'll be sorry. Deion Jackson's another guy I like if Jonathan Taylor misses any more time. He's my number 11 this week and would be considered in the top 5 if JT misses multiple weeks. A must-add handcuff for Taylor owners. Jaylen Warren, same thing. Get him if you got Najee Harris. James Cook is on the radar. If Singletary goes down, he'll be near the top of the list. Might be worth a stash anyway. Is Darius Slayton a thing again this year? He's threatening to be with all the injuries at wide receiver for the 4-1 Giants. One more solid week, and he just may make the list. De'Ami Brown, this is kind of his thing. 1 or 2 great games, but absolute horse shit nothing for the rest of the season. Until I see something consistent out of this guy, I ain't biting on this one. Khalil Shakir is only worth a damn if Isaiah McKenzie misses extended time. Otherwise, he's fourth in Josh Allen's pecking order, so only valuable in super deep leagues, for now. And finally, the QB carousel. I fucking told you that Goff is trash, flaming trash, and that you should not trust him at all. Hopefully you listened. Wentz is in a similar boat, just a better quality boat. Don't be fooled though, he's too volatile to ever trust in fantasy. And no Jimmy G, there are better options, I guarantee. Didn't mean to rhyme here, but, there you go. So that's it, another waiver wire show in the bag. Hope that helps. Good luck to you all on your claims this week. No Thursday Night Quickie this week, but I'll get out a post with my takes on the relevant players in that game on my Facebook page, and there's a link to that page in the description below, where you'll also find a link to my Patreon page where you can sign up for one-on-one fantasy advice for all your teams. Go check that out and let me help you crush your league. While you're at it, hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that bell to get notified when new shows come out. And please share this with all your friends, even the imaginary ones. They might have a YouTube account too, Thank you so much for your support. I'll be back Saturday night with live benches and bumps. Until then, I'm out. Peace.